The nurse looked at me like I'd just told her the sky was green. "Your mother left," she said. "And she said you signed the release forms." I was 10. Groggy from anesthesia, IV still in my arm, staring at the clipboard where my shaky signature authorized a $3,200 surgery, alone. She'd vanished in the night, but somehow my name was still footing the bill. But what happened next will shock even those who thought they'd seen everything. But first, let's go back to the beginning. The first thing I saw when I opened my eyes was the ceiling, white, speckled, humming with the faint pulse of hospital fluorescence. The second thing I saw was the nurse's face, the way her smile strained at the edges as she told me, "Your mother, she left." At first, I thought she meant left to get coffee, maybe a snack. I was 10, still gauging the world in sandwich breaks and promises that people returned when they said they would. But when I reached for the corner of the bed where my backpack had been, gone. No buzzing phone, no jacket folded over the chair, no sign of my mother, just an absence that felt like a cold draft through a locked room. That was the first lie I caught in her wake. She'd told them I was ready to go, told them I didn't need her. The whispers came next, seeping through curtain partitions like steam. No insurance? She forged it? He signed it? They spoke in half sentences, as if saying the full truth aloud would solidify it into something legally damning. Then the doctor came. Clipboard in hand, he was younger than the gray in his beard suggested. "You authorized the procedure, Daniel," he said, with a practiced gentleness that sounded rehearsed. "Your signature's on the form." I stared at the paper. I knew my name well. It had gotten me out of spelling bees and into detention. But here it was, my own shaky scrawl, stretched clumsily across a line meant for a consenting adult. The curves of my letters drooped like they were drunk. Sedation. I must have been under sedation. The administrator filled in the blanks with bureaucratic cruelty. Jeanine Wallace had declared me emancipated, said she could no longer support me. Financially incompatible with her current situation, was the phrase she used, apparently, like I was a broken appliance returned to the store, like I came with a receipt. 3 days I waited. Each morning I thought I'd hear her heels clicking through the corridor. Each night I imagined the rhythm of her car keys. But the only people who came were nurses changing shifts and social workers updating my file. When the paperwork caught up, I was processed. Because that's what happens to expensive things no one wants to pay for. They get processed. No phone calls, no visit, not even a voicemail. Just the echo of that word. Abandoned. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just counted the cracks in the ceiling and learned a truth no child should ever have to swallow. Love can come with terms and conditions. There's a particular silence in foster homes, not peace, not calm. A hunted silence, the kind that comes right before a slammed door or a whispered threat. I learned to live inside that silence, to read the tension in the air like other kids read comic books. I never unpacked more than I had to. One bag, one book, one plan to leave. They called me a liability. I heard it more than once, usually behind paper-thin walls or in the clipped whispers of late-night phone calls. "He's too clever for his own good," one caseworker said. "He questions everything, makes the other kids paranoid." Translation? I didn't smile when I was supposed to. I didn't nod when they lied to me. I noticed things, and noticing things gets you kicked out. Some homes saw me as a project, others as a punishment. There was the couple who locked the fridge after 8 p.m., the woman who counted the toilet paper squares, the man who accidentally called me by his son's name and hit harder when I didn't answer. They taught me things. How to keep a knife under my mattress without it being found. How to lie still through screaming matches. how to stash $20 bills between the pages of a Bible no one ever opened. By the time I was 15, survival wasn't instinct. It was method. I stopped hoping for connection. I built a life around observation and exit strategies. Then I saw her name again, Janine Wallace. It was a court document, folded in half and left unguarded on a clerk's desk while they ran for coffee. Curiosity pulled me in, but rage held me there. Bankruptcy filing. And there, in black and white on line 6B, dependents, Daniel Wallace, age 13, son. I hadn't seen her in years, but to the government, I was still her tax write-off. The irony was acid in my mouth. She couldn't afford me, but I was still profitable on paper. Something cracked then. Not loud. Just a hairline fracture in the part of me that still hoped she might one day apologize. I realized she never would. She didn't need to. She'd already rewritten the narrative, and I was a footnote on her expense sheet. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the floor of my current placement, a 2-bedroom house with no curtains and too many locks, and I planned. Not how to run, how to erase her. How to cut her out of every document, every database, every piece of legal fiction that said I belonged to her. Because I didn't. I belonged to no one. And that made me dangerous. At 18, I traded the name Wallace for Malone like shedding a skin I never chose to wear. Daniel Malone sounded clean, unmarked. Paperwork moved differently when that name was at the top. It didn't carry the stench of abandonment or the faint, bureaucratic fingerprint of a woman who saw me as a financial liability. Community college wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. Paid for with part-time hours and late-night shifts at a law clerk's office where my job was to make other people's messes disappear into filing cabinets. I knew the system inside out, the way numbers talked louder than names, how a badly written date could stall a case, how signatures could betray more than intentions. I scanned forms by the dozens. Nothing personal, just ink and lies. Until her name came up. Janine Wallace. I almost missed it. Buried under a stack of auto loan applications. My pulse didn't spike. I didn't flinch. I read it the way a surgeon reads a pathology report. Clinically, completely. She was applying for a brand new Dodge SUV. Retail price, $38,000. Employment history listed as independent contractor. But that wasn't the part that made my stomach knot. It was the co-signer, Daniel Wallace, the name I'd burned, the identity I'd buried. Somehow, she still had my social security number, like a rusted key she couldn't bring herself to throw away. And there it was again. My forged signature, a shaky attempt to mimic the scrawl of a teenage hand, frozen in the same style I'd abandoned years ago. She hadn't just crossed a line, she'd paved a road with it. I didn't hesitate. Fraud complaint, filed under my real name, with timestamps and digital fingerprints to match. My supervisor looked over the documents, raised an eyebrow. "You know her?" he asked. "Used to," I said. Then I called the dealership. My voice didn't tremble. "I'm Daniel Wallace," I told them. "And I didn't sign that loan. I'm pressing charges." It was surgical, no yelling, no revenge fantasy. Just execution. She'd taught me that, how to abandon someone with nothing but a signature. 3 weeks later, they repossessed the car. I had a friend at the lot slip a note into the glove compartment. Just 6 words, scribbled on scrap paper, folded neat and tucked beneath the warranty manual. "Am I still too expensive?" That was the last favor I ever did for her. It started in whispers, office break rooms, gas station counters, behind the register at the town grocery store. By then, I wasn't Danny Wallace anymore. I was that kid, the one who took his own mother to court. In a town where family names carried weight like old money, mine had been a liability. Suddenly, it was currency. The local paper ran the headline in bold ink. teen turns tables on mother who abandoned him. They didn't know the half of it, but they knew enough. The story spread faster than any fire I'd ever seen. Small towns run on recycled shame and fresh gossip, and I'd served them both in a single headline. Reporters called. Church committees invited me to share my journey. Schools wanted me to talk to students about resilience. One even asked if I'd pose for a photo under a banner that said "From Victim to Victory." I declined. I wasn't interested in pageantry, but I understood the power of narrative, and I knew when it was time to own mine. That's how I ended up speaking at a forum on youth financial abuse in Des Moines. My voice was measured, my story distilled into facts and frameworks. I didn't cry, I didn't dramatize. I simply said, when you're 10 years old and handed a pen while unconscious, that's not just betrayal, that's theft of innocence, of security, of legal identity. The room held its breath. Afterward, a nonprofit representative handed me her card. "Let us help you finish school," she said. "You clearly have more to do." She was right. Pre-law wasn't a dream. It was a strategy. I devoured case studies on guardianship fraud, medical debt exploitation, coerced consent. I wrote my thesis on identity abuse within custodial relationships. When I graduated at 24, I didn't throw my cap in the air. I filed motions the next day. Now I work cases most people would never believe exist. Children buried in medical bills they never agreed to, teens forced to co-sign payday loans, minors listed as dependents by strangers for tax refunds. I know their stories before they finish the first sentence. Because I've lived the punctuation marks. As for Janine, I never saw her again after sentencing. But I remember the last thing she said to me, said it without flinching, without shame. "You're not a child anymore. You're a cost." And she was right. But I turned every cent of that cost into consequence. Because some debts can't be paid back. They have to be paid forward, through justice, through truth, through never letting it happen again.